So this is part 2 of the engine mounts for George's Mugen Civic Si. We're going to put the full Hasport mount kit in. So in part 1 we did a test with the factory mounts and then replaced just the rear mount and torque mount from Hasport. So this test we're going to remove those 2 mounts and put the whole Hasport mount kit in and do a sim test. We said we would kind of do a follow-up and let you know what the mounts feel like. You did the torque mount and the rear mount. It's been, what, about a week now, right?
Something like that, week and a half.
Give us a full perspective of what you think, what the main differences are. Can you feel the difference?
Yeah, I think with any kind of car you drive all the time, you know, if you do any kind of spirited driving, it makes it feel more connected, it's more solid. It's definitely, I feel, necessary for anything you really enjoy driving. And you don't have any vibration at idle with those 2 mounts up.
Yeah, there's no feel at all. I drove this the other day. In fact, I decided to give it a wash boy. I don't know why. I think I was feeling generous. But I started it, and just the initial startup, it didn't feel any different at all. The only thing I felt was when I released the clutch, it didn't vibrate, but like you said, it felt more connected. It felt like it almost engaged a little bit more.
That's the only time it feels different.
Yeah. But driving, idling with the AC on, when I drove it, it didn't feel any different at all. So that, and again, that is the cheaper of the options, just those 2 mounts. And we showed you how easy that is. That was something, I mean, it took, what, half an hour or less?
Something like that. Yeah,
so
it makes a huge difference.
That's something you can do in your driveway. So the next is going to be the rest of the mount kit. The mounts are all stock except the torque mount and the rear mount, like we showed you in episode 1. If you do the full mount kit, it doesn't come with this mount. All the rest of the mounts are changed to the billet mounts, so that's why we're kind of splitting it up. This would be the super easy install, do it in your driveway. This is just the way it's sitting right now. We're going to take these mounts off, show you a little bit of the install, and then again we're going to do some comparison. We'll put the GoPro there, we'll remove the hood, we'll do some driving up and down the street and actually see how much movement we get from the engine in comparison to the last video. We are using the Hasport Billet mounts. The mounts that we chose are the 62, which is the softer urethane, rubber, whatever that material is. It is quite a bit softer, actually. You can feel this one. That is more of the street series, I would say. Another reason to use these, they're made in the USA, and also they're guaranteed for life. If you break this mount, send it back, they will put new bushings in there. If they can't put new bushings in there, they'll send you a new mount. It's probably the best warranty I've ever heard of on a mount company. And their brackets here, nicely powder coated, all welded. Good quality products, really are. Of course, comes with hardware, everything here to do the install.
And it's out. Once you get this top bracket off here, you'll see the 2 bolts there on the top, there and there. There's another one back in there that holds the top of that bracket in. You can just see it. I probably can't point at it where it is, but you take that one out, those 2, remove that one. There's another one down there. You can just see it there. And then in the front, the same thing. Way down in that hole, there's another one way down in there. So you'll need to get a long extension, one on the back, one on the front, 2 there, and then 1 against the frame rail back in there, and that'll get that mount out. Alright, I've got the bracket all in. There's an extra bracket going to there. That's why that top torque mount doesn't work anymore. Not that it's necessary with the complete mount kit, but get all of your bolts in before you tighten anything down, because there's the one in the top, 2 there, 2 down there, 1 in that side that I told you about earlier, and then 1 on either side in the bottom. So get every bolt in, make sure you can still wiggle it, and we'll start tightening them down, you know, all the way around so it doesn't pull on it and make it weird. So we're going to tighten them all down evenly, and then we can put the mount in. And by the way, this is just the oil pan up with the jack slightly, put a piece of wood on it to support it, spread the load on the pan. You don't want to break your oil pan. But you could do this in the driveway with basic hand tools and basic knowledge. Alright, and on this side, I've taken the ECU out because it's kind of in the way. But there's the mount that we're replacing. Get these plugs out of the way here. They don't want to move. I'll hold them. So anyways, with that mount, there's the nut on the top of the mount, which is there, that bolt, and then that bolt as well. And then there's another one kind of underneath it that goes into the side of the frame rail there. And then of course we've got the 1 stud, 2 stud, and then there's another bolt right behind it. So all that is going to come out. It will be replaced by a bracket and a billet transmission mount. So I'll start taking this one out and then we'll show you what it looks like. Alright, so here's that mount out of the car. This is the mount part. It's got the 2 bolts that bolt into the chassis. The ECU bracket bolts under there too. And then the one underneath. And to get that out, you're going to pull both of those. Get that one loose with a regular wrench. You don't want to put an open end wrench or a closed end wrench on it because then it'll get stuck. So you back that all the way out as much as you can. It's not going to come out, but once you back that out, then you take out the 3 in this and you pull it up as one piece. And then all that gets replaced with a bracket and a billet mount.
Doesn't look like it's leaking any, but of course they have a little bit of mileage on there. The nice new Hasport mounts are in. Look how pretty they look. Sweet. So here is the next part of it. We're going to start it up and see how smooth this thing is. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So a quick tip on installing your mounts. This is something I learned back in the days. I used to do a lot of mount kits for Honda CRXs. My big thing was to use rubber mounts to try and reduce vibration. Well, this is an experiment. Imagine this is your engine. Let's say it's held on with 2 mounts. Well, if you was to install 1 mount here and have all the weight hanging off this mount so it's like this, and then install your other mount, all of the vibration is getting transmitted from this side. This one is already under load. Essentially this one might be just relaxed. What I like to do, and this is my tip, is to support your engine, preferably on a jack stand, on a jack, any kind of, like a dolly. Support the engine so the engine weight is held, and then install your mounts loose so every mount has a little bit of play. Get the mounts somewhat centralized, then tighten your mounts. Then they're supporting the engine more even. They're distributing the weight around the mounts as opposed to hanging on one mount and then another mount there for support. You get a lot less vibration. It's what I would call installing the engine in a relaxed position. I've used that term before, same as exhausts. If it's supported completely, then you install the mounts. It tends to spread the load and not one mount is pulling more than the other, and it'll be a lot smoother. That's just my tip, and it's what I learned by experimenting with mounts over the years, but that's the way I do our CRX mounts. Alright, so if that worked, that's actually pretty decent, isn't it?
I mean, it's on fast idle, so you have to wait for it to come down to 700. But...
Well, like I was saying before, usually when you put your hand on the door,
yeah,
this always seems to transmit the most vibration. When you put, obviously, a hand on the wheel, you've got a little bit of cushion there. But I felt stock mounts that are worse than that.
Yeah.
Let's do the water test. Here is the scientific test right here. Here's some water sitting on the dash. You kind of see it moving. Now it looks really cool. We're gonna go ahead and mount the GoPro on the fenders so we can see actually how much that motor moves. So we'll put the GoPro right here. All right, so that's our GoPro view right there. All right, camera's recording, so we'll do the same test as before. Basically pull out of here, go to the cul-de-sac at the end, which is way down there. Come by, do a full run, decel, and then we'll see how much the motor moves. Then from this end, we'll come back first and second gear. Yep. Does that make sense? Hopefully we'll keep the test the same so we have some super accurate data. So this is just an interesting way to see how much the motor moves, a nice way to play around with GoPros as well. So we can actually see how much deflection there is in the motor, and of course what it feels like in the car, which George will give us some feedback. There's the decel. So now we're going to do a first and second gear. shifting going on there. He's getting pretty quick with those shifts. Let's go ahead and see actually how much that moved. Let's go to the GoPro. That sounded completely different.
Oh yeah, it's way different.
There's no wheel hop, no engine noise, none of the It was smooth as can be. We're gonna have a lot of data from this. It's gonna be really interesting to see what we got over here. All right, let's bring it in, put the hood back on, and let's talk about how the engine mounts feel. So the Mugen Civic Si is back in the shop. So this time we're doing a follow-up from the mounts that we recorded. You've had it, well, about 6 days now. Yeah. You've had time to drive it. Engine mounts, realistically, what are you going to say?
I honestly like the full set more than just the torque mounts.
Is it engaging any different, or is it just the drivability, or what is it?
It's just as solid, like it's a very solid driving experience. Like it is more solid feeling now than it did before. But I almost feel like with all the mounts in, like just the engagement feels a little smoother.
So what we're thinking is why it's smoother with these mounts is that the factory mounts have a little bit more play for the engine to do this. So all the load is on the torque mount and the lower mount, as opposed to it's been distributed through all three mounts. But I just drove it too. And before, when you would release the clutch, as you would get engagement point, you could almost feel the transfer from the engine to the body. You could feel a little vibration. But then when you go back to idle and put the clutch in, it didn't do it. Right now with these mounts, it's got like a consistent feel. It feels, I mean, it sounds kind of crazy. It feels more connected. I mean, the point of the movie is I think I would go right to stage 2. You might
as well. I mean, if it's just a regular street car, I mean, it was good both ways. I just feel like, I personally like it more like this. But again, it's always down to your opinion, so.
Yeah. Plus the price difference, and remember, if you buy the whole kit, you're not going to buy the torque mount, you're going to buy the 3 mounts. So I don't know what the pricing is. Go ahead and shop around, call Hasport or call one of their distributors and see what the pricing is. But it's probably
between Amazon, Hasport, it's all pretty much the same price. No one marks it up or marks it down any more than anyone else.
But I would definitely recommend the 62A inserts. It's a smoother, softer feel, unless you're making 400, 500, 600 horsepower, then maybe stiffer. But street car, I'd say this is perfect. Go with the full mount kit with the 62A. So that's it. This is a used JDM valve cover. It's nice. It's the classic JDM Honda red. Just looks really nice. It's in good shape. There's a few scrapes here, but I think it's definitely going to look good in that engine bay.
Yeah, the genuine red's always a nice red. This is the same thing I did on the EP3. We had a motor come in and someone wanted a black valve cover, so rather than send out the red one, I sent out my silver EP3 valve cover and kept the red one for the EP3.
And the oil cap, the good thing is, when the oil cap's in, you're not going to be able to get to it because it's going to be back there.
It actually goes that way because the timing belt's on this side on
That's
the K-Series.
Flip that around.
Yeah.
But that looks good. I'm happy with that. I think we should do it.
This would be really nice.